We learned three opinions so far in the Brisa, and now we're going to do Rav Hamnuna's question on Rav Yosef, but just to go over quickly. So the Brisa said, Borer v'oichel borer miniach, that you're allowed to separate and eat, or separate and leave it for your friend. Then it said, La yivra, do not separate, v'mbira chayiv chatas, and if you did, you're chayiv chatas. So that seemed to be a contradiction, so we have a line there. We did Ula's pshat. He said that it depends if you're doing it today or for tomorrow. For today it's allowed, for tomorrow it's not. Rav Chizda said it depends if it's less than a shear, which we said is the size of a fig, in Hebrew, a gregris. Or if it's more than a shear, less than a shear is allowed, more than a shear is chayiv chatas. Rav Yosef divided it into three sections, and he said it depends if you're doing it by hand, with a dish is not allowed, but you're not chayiv. Are we doing it with a sieve, separating? So that would be a chayiv chatas, using actual separating utensil. Rav Hamnuna is what we're going to do, and Abaya is where we're up to. So Rav Hamnuna asks on Rav Yosef, he says, Maskeflo Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna asks, Midi k'nain v'tamchi ktani? Does it? The word midi and ktani should go together. So midi ktani, does it say k'nain v'tamchi? K'nain v'tamchi is this dish or a basket, and it's not a utensil that's being used for specifically, it's not a specific utensil for separating, it's just a regular dish, but it may help in the separating. So Rav Yosef says that the Brisa is referring to a k'nain v'tamchi. Rav Hamnuna says, does it say in the Brisa k'nain v'tamchi? It doesn't say that. You're making this up. And Rashi talks out that they could have said, does it say a sieve? But they just chose one of these questions. Elam Rav Hamnuna. Rather, Rav Hamnuna has his own pshat. He says, Borer v'oichel. We'll put this into quotes. What does the Brisa mean when it says Borer v'oichel, separate and eat? That's oichel mitoich hapsailas. That's referring to food from waste. Psailas is waste, or we call it the good from the bad. Borer miniach, what's that referring to? We have to put a comma over there. Borer miniach, separating and leaving it. That's oichel mitoich psailas. That's referring to good from the bad. However, psailas mitoich oichel, bad from the good. So for that we say lo yivra, v'mbira chayiv chatas, that you're not allowed to separate. And if you do, you're chayiv chatas. So Rav Hamnuna made the distinction between good from bad, which is allowed, and bad from good, which is not allowed. So if you had raisins in nuts or peanuts, and you want the nuts, you're allowed to take the nuts, but you're not allowed to take the raisins out and then just eat the nuts. Maskefla Abaya has a question. Midi oichel mitoich psailas ktani. It's like giving Rav Hamnuna a taste of his own medicine. Does it say oichel mitoich psailas? It doesn't say good from the bad. The Brisa doesn't make that distinction. We have to put a question mark here. Does it say? Again, midi and ktani go together. Does it say, or does it teach, oichel mitoich psailas? These words, oichel mitoich psailas, it doesn't say that. Ela Amar Abaya, rather Abaya says, borer v'oichel, what does it mean? That you're allowed to separate and eat? That's referring to le'alter, which means right away, for immediate use. Let's put the le'al. Borer miniach, you're allowed to separate and leave it for your friend. That's referring to le'alta. That's for immediate use. L'boy bayoim, but for later on the day. So for that it says lo yivra, do not separate. V'mbirer, and if you did separate, nasa kaboyer lo yitzer v'chayiv chatas. It's as if you separated for a storage, storage, and you're chayiv chatas. Okay. Let's just take a look at that inside. So Abaya says for immediate use is allowed, but for later on today, that's not allowed. So if you would have people coming Shabbos day, Friday night, you're not allowed to separate it for them. Let's see now. Amrua Rabbanan Kamei Rava. The Rabbanan said this in front of Rava. And Amar Lahu, Rava said to them, Shaper Amar Nachmeni. Abaya said, well, we discussed in class why Abaya is called Nachmeni. We gave actually three reasons. The most famous one is because he grew up in Rabba's house, and Rabba's father was Nachmeni. Rabba didn't want to say his father's name, so he called Abaya, called Nachmeni, who was Abaya, called him Abaya, which means like my father's name. So he didn't have to say his father's name. Okay, we'll stop right here, and this will leave for another share.